There we go. Hello, hello. I return. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give it one more try, and then if it doesn't work, then I will spend the time to fix it later. No, it just doesn't want to behave. Alrighty. I'm not gonna worry about that now. Okay. So, in the meantime, let's get on with this. Oh, one of the other things I sort of added that I was going to mention was I've got a new redeem, which is like I think it's like 8,000 points or something. Yeah, 8,000 points. Add a doodle to the whiteboard. I've got here just a random stock image of a whiteboard, and if anybody pays that, then they can just send me a prompt, and I will do a hilariously crappy whiteboard doodle of it. Yeah, no worries. So, like, for 8,000 channel points, I've now added the whiteboard. And basically, if someone pays that amount, then I will add a little doodle to the whiteboard. Yeah. I am eventually planning on making a Discord, yeah. It is definitely on the to-do list. Okay. So that's the first official whiteboard doodle. Is it a doodle or a doodle? These are the real questions. What to do? Oh my god, that's quite funny, actually. Just something really silly like this. Like a sort of like, yo! Oh, I've just realized why my things are broken. Oh my god, I'm a schmidiot. I changed what it's called, and it doesn't understand what the command is anymore. That's a really easy fix, and I can do that right now. Yeah, so like I'm using an extension called Trigger Fire, and it helps me like it basically sort of takes the channel point rewards and reads when they are used, and then it will do something to my OBS. But it has to be exactly the same name, otherwise it doesn't work. And I remember a lot of people just saying that, like, seriously, don't change it, like, it'll mess it up, like... So if I do this now... Save your work sound alert... There we go. And then the same for Excellent Pun, because I changed it to saying Sound Alert in the name. And the same for Wrong Layer. Okay, so those are the three with sound alerts. I'm gonna quickly connect it to OBS again. Bum, 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 bum. So now, if I do it... So it probably still needs me to, like, refresh it. But that is useful to know. Yeah, so it's still gonna need me to like refresh it and go through it again, but um that's a good catch. Like I'm happy I caught that. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this doodle. I think we'll go ahead and iterate on that one. So let's go up into crimes. And yeah, for now I'm gonna make it a tier 1. So that everyone can use it because I think that's fun. And then like after the 2 years or so that I get freebie emotes, then a bunch of these are gonna get shuffled around. But for now, it's just gonna be tier 1s. Because yeah, I don't have access to the ability to have free emotes just yet. I might put like a big disclaimer on my my thing at the minute. Sound alert's not working right now. Here we go. Hi! And this one is absolutely gonna vibrate. Maybe we get rid of the shoulder. Yeah, I quite like it like that. You've been sat here seething over a quest you're doing in WoW. It's taking forever and it's an awful quest. When you got to the end, you realized you missed something. You had to go all the... Oh, no! All the way back! I hate when quests are like that. It's like, this is dumb. I hate this. This is... Why did someone design it like this? It's this quest like, kill these trolls until their bosses appear. So you commit genocide, and then the first one appears. Cool. Loot the item. Kill another 1,000,000 trolls until the next one appears. Rinse and repeat 3 times. Oh, and you didn't loot the middle one. Ah. Oh, Kaylee, I feel your pain. Because the loot isn't on the body, it's on the ground. Because, like, especially most MMOs, you'll get into a rhythm, and, like, you won't necessarily be checking every single thing. Oh. Torture. Pure torture. You're following a guide too. Oh no. In those instances, I'm just like, let this quest be over. And that's not good game design there. Oh yeah, you did. You accidentally fell onto your keyboard and it accidentally purchased a guide for you. By accident. It accessed all of your credit information. Yeah. That's pretty good. You're level 76 already. Bloomin' heck. Let's do that, and then let's pull this into... here. Save that as a PNG. Oh, it actually comes with a thing. Like a little animation preset thing. That's neat. One thing I might do is make the eyes just a little bit smaller. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness it's done though, like... There we go, just to kind of ensure that there's plenty of, like it doesn't get completely lost in the source of becoming a tiny, tiny, tiny image. Let's have a look and see what that looks like. Yeah, that's much better. That's really funny. Okay, let me just go ahead and put it as an upload, and then I will hopefully be able to get you guys to see this. Oh, it's pending approval. Maybe, hopefully, that's just pending approval from me saying that I'm the artist that's attributed to this. Oh no, it's just pending approval. I have no idea how long that'll take then. Kind of makes sense because it is an animated one, but that is now in the animated one slot, and I can show you a preview of it, which is really fun. Hey, Drunk! How you doing? Yeah, this is the hype one. So yeah, that'll come through at some point. But in the meantime... Hey, welcome back. I hope you had a nice time. How's that going, by the way? So, are they all primed, or have you still got, like, quite a bit to go? Hey, nice. There's so many minis. There we go. So eventually we're gonna get that. There's a little sneak peek preview. But as you can see, it is pending approval. I'm hyped for the hype. There we go. So in total, we've now got all the tier 1 ones. And I'll figure out a dancing animation at some point. To do a jam emote. Yeah, we got Hung, we got Cry, Pride, Thanks But Spot, Sip, and then Hype. Thanks, Budspot. So I've got like 2 slots left. Yeah, we're just gonna have a look and see what we can do for those 2. We've also got some, like, bit tier emotes, so I've got 3 of those, and I'll figure that out. But yeah, I'm glad to get that done. It's funny, it's like the opposite of the Binskits one. So like Binskits is just like proper anxious and I'm proper just like entering the hypersphere. That is a sugar rush if ever I've seen one. I think Wheeze and You could be really good as like the last 2 that I do for like the official tier 1, 2, and 3. So I'm gonna work on Wheeze. And I'm gonna save my work. Yay! Let's see. So we want to get on that layer. Make sure it's all color cohesive. Because if there's one thing we want, it's cohesion. Oh my god, how am I gonna do the nose? I guess maybe not. Like... Oh, maybe that. That's funny. Just right in the middle. Jesus. I think making these eyes as big as possible is really important. That's the one thing I've found with these emotes, is like, I really have to have that, like, that space in between, so that it doesn't get all muddied up. Okay, having the one eye just kind of not one that's in and one that's out is really funny. Yeah, something like this. Just a little bit of tweaking is needed, I feel. Let's go ahead and simplify that. It's always really funny to me to imply that the mask has an actual mouth. And yet, on the sip one, I'm unable to drink the drink because it is just a mask. That kind of really silly, like, wait, but... but over here you... No. I love the kind of continuity that just says to the viewer, yeah, don't worry about it. make that pupil a little bit smaller, because I can already anticipate that that's going to be, like, too big. It's fun. I'm starting to get a feel for, like, what is going to and what is not going to read, which is really good. Your belly is giving you the rumblies that only hands can satisfy. Charlie! Oh no, you're right, that is Carl. Carl! I'm sorry, my belly's giving me the rumblies that only hands can satisfy. Yeah. Very funny sense of humor. There's one. Oops. No! Some big Ghibli tears. I need to go ahead and change the color on the ears. Hey, 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 Smokey, how's it going? Welcome in. We are just doing some more emotes. Yeah, doing good. Just kind of chilling with it, really. Hey, you're so welcome. You are a VIP. Oh, thank you. We've got a an animated hype emote coming up as well. That is in the works. So let's put this one. There's the hype one. And that one, of course, shakes. Oh, not that layer. I'd like to delete that layer. There we go. And I can make it a little bit bigger there. And a little bit bigger here. Because the wheeze is definitely going to get lost in the sauce if I'm not careful. Oh, I just need to edit that a sec. Save. Dupe. Please. Let's go ahead and save as a transparent binge. Please, my binge. And let's see what that looks like. It's pretty good, but I feel like we could maybe make it a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Whoa there. Friggin' excuse me, I'm selecting the whole thing, please. Honestly, we could probably just do this. Because it shows the ears, it shows the mask. You take the moon, you take the sun. So we're gonna do Dupuis 2. Have a look at what that looks like on the actual website. It's looking better. So if I go ahead and do a wheeze. Let's reload and see where those are at. Okay, so that's also pending approval. But they're in the works. Okay. We got wheeze, we got hype. We got the cry. I think I'm gonna go for the pointing one last. It's a pretty standard, like, emote array. Some dupew. Save the big canvas. So, a little bit inspired by your stream, Smilks. I've also got new point redeems. And one of the things that I wanted to do, because I want to, as I've mentioned before, I want to keep this sort of like, partial, my individual drawings, and then also partial, teaching eventually. So, I've got myself a whiteboard. And one of the redeems is people can just have a doodle on the whiteboard. I thought that would be really fun. Yeah! And then, like, if I have eventual plans to, like, make a big sort of, like, streaming array, so I've got, like, a whole bunch of ideas in the works, and one of them is, like, doing teaching streams on a set that looks like a classroom. And if that's the case, then this whiteboard will basically be actively sort of like in the background on that, with all the doodles and things. And then, like, if I need to come over to the whiteboard to explain anything, if there's any spare room, then I will absolutely just sort of, like, explain it in the spare room, and then have all the doodles around. I thought that could be a fun, cute little nod. Yeah, right? I'm bringing back all the bits of teaching that I miss. Ironically, the teaching part, the kids part, and the subject parts, they were all great and fantastic, and I loved them. The paperwork part and the Ofsted part was not fun, and burnt me out very hard, so I had to quit. But I do miss it, and I want to sort of incorporate it going further. I think I should make those lines a little bit smaller there. And do that. Save my work. Will do. And apologies for the no sound working at the minute. I did the classic thing of setting up some stuff before stream and then breaking another thing. So I was like, ah yes, I'll get that fixed, that thing that's been on my list. Oops. Uh-oh. But it's not a difficult fix. All I need to do is just rejangulate the Flibberty Gibbet. You know, standard stuff. Tune! I will say the Mega Jam still works, so we can still do this one. You have an idea for another redeem on your end, but you gotta make it work first, haha. Ooh, if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear. You want to make random Skaven noise redeems? You finally found a clip that's not half an hour long that you can chop into little sound bites. That's really funny. Skaven are really good. I'm not like a big Warhammer head, but I've played the tabletop RPG version, so like the D&D-esque style fantasy one. And that was really funny. We played pre-mades and I was like a little halfling. That was just very, very silly. And then there's I've played Total Warhammer. That's really, really fun. And like pretty much just like Civilization, I start playing that game and then I'm like, the sun's coming up. Huh. You're in a Warhammer Fantasy RP 4E group. Oh my goodness, that's great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's what that was. That sounds familiar. But it was really funny. Like, it was the sort of like, I love the tongue-in-cheek that the book has for like everything. I will always appreciate something that's like, we're taking ourselves seriously, but not too seriously. You tend to overdo it playing Total War Warhammer. Just another turn. But if I don't, if I quit now, they're gonna take my town. And what's the other one? There was one that was like Left 4 Dead-y, that was about the Skaven. I've played that and that was very fun. I think I was playing a paladin in that one. Of some sort. Big sword man. It's been a few years, so like I'm very rusty on remembering most of the terms, but I had a fun time like during all of it. Would definitely recommend those games if anybody wanted to play something like that. Right, like the whole like the Skaven aren't real, these whole man-sized rats, no such thing. But they've built several underground nukes. They are very evil, like in a cartoonish way. It's very, very funny. Yeah. Oh, what a delight. Like, that sounds like a really funny redeem. And I hope that it doesn't give you too much trouble. I was looking up sound effects the other day, and I kid you not, um I'm happy to admit that I'm a 32-year-old gender fluid woman who just lost my shit finding a goose honk button. Like, it was the funniest thing to me in the entire goddamn world. And I just kept, like, because it was just so short, and, like, such a short clip of just a little goose going, huh? And because I had, like, clicked a bunch of other, like, things and I was in slight work mode, it was just, like, completely cut me out of work mode and put me straight into, oh no, my funny bone. You yanked it out of me and you wiggled it around. This is like, no, 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 yeah, that could be funny. No, no, Hank. Gone. Honestly, it doesn't take much from me. In my eyes, though, if you're unable of laughing at a simple goose honk out of nowhere, you've lost the spark of life. Never be too old to giggle at a goose. The Dupes' words of wisdom. You're looking forward to what GW has to announce about Warhammer the Old World this weekend. Warhammer Fest and all that. Oh, cool! That does sound exciting. There's something about the way that I've drawn the curve here, and then, like, the curve here, that makes this look like a really old MSN, like, little avatar person thing. Like, that's sending me. That's... You're not a fan of how they handled the Warhammer at the end of Warhammer Fantasy in the Age of Sigmar. That was pretty much when you stopped playing, painting, and collecting. Ah, yeah. What happened then? Was it just like... Did they just kind of like drop the ball, or did they make a load of like weird retcons? Or was it just like a disappointing wet fart of like, there's your content, yeah. Oh. Didn't sell enough, so they killed it off and started with a new setting, both more copyright names, for both copyright names on their end, and also to make the rules more appealing to the younger 40k crowd. Ah, that old nugget. That old chestnut. It is frustrating when that happens, especially if it's a game that you've been super invested in. I used to be into, like, really into a card game called Netrunner. And literally, I unfortunately came in a bit late to the scene because it had already been killed off. It's like, oh, but this game is so good. Like, why? Why would they do this? I'm in now. So, like, you cannot buy any of the new cards or anything like that, or like, even finding cards is, like, difficult because, like, they just don't print them anymore, and it's like, but this game is, like, fantastic. It's so well done. It's one of the really, really, like, much cooler versions of asymmetric gameplay in a card game that I've seen in a very long time. Like, I've played a fair but like amount of card games in my life, and it takes a lot to kind of like impress me, or like, I guess not impress me. I suppose it takes a lot for me to like see something unique, or like not just go, oh, it's kind of like X. And that's exactly what Netrunner was for me, and it was just like, oh, it was heartbreaking because apparently it was just a lot of there was a lot of like drama and faff that happened in the development cycle of it as well, and in the end the decision was made to just like drop it all. And yeah, they won't release reprints, so it's just like, well, if you want to play it proxy, like, or find someone who has the cards already, or play it on the fan-made web browser version. It's like, oh. Mwop. Warhammer had the end times thing going on, and did they shit on a lot of the lore and just to make stuff happen and send that old system off to the Age of Sigmar as a replacement? It just feels like it's frustrating because like I get work crunch and like creative crunch for especially a load of these big companies and things like that, but like when the fan base seems to be pretty unanimously saying something, it's frustrating when that doesn't seem to get listened to, or like doesn't necessarily get sort of respected, I guess. Because like, yes, it's these creators' games in the end of the day, and yes, it's up to them what they do with them, and like it's their money on the table and all of these things, but they, you know, they make their money out of the good grace of the players and the people that buy their products, and it just feels like, I didn't want a soggy kipper. Oh, well, we've decided to sell a soggy kipper, so you're gonna have to buy it if you still love it, and if you don't buy the soggy kipper, then we will stop it altogether. It's like, oh, well, now I've got a soggy kipper in my house, and, like, I just don't, it's not the same. Like, I can't really use this on my Jenga tower, it's just kind of useless, it's slippery. Yeah. And, like, I will not profess to know the full ins and outs of, like, game development or anything like that, aside from knowing the general knowledge things of, like, a lot of the creative teams in these kind of, like, workplace companies, in these kind of workplace environments, rather, tend to be at the will and mercy of the people with the big bucks, and, like, tend to be crunched out of their minds, so, like, quite often I'm not so harsh on the creative team, I'm more, like, grumpy at the financial departments, should we say. And again, that's like, I think Grumpy is about as bad as I ever get, because it's like, I'm sure there's a reason that, like, the public wouldn't understand because they've not, like, been in the industry or whatever, and I'm sure there's, like, 1,000,001 meetings that have happened, but it does seem kind of fishy from the outside. And, rumble, rumble, rumble. But what you gonna do? Says Levi, as I always say. Excuse, where is the thing that I pasted in, please? Could I have that? Is that allowed? Is that it? Oh, it's all the way up there. Why? I didn't color in my hair. My goodness. Oh my gosh, this music is so good. The artist Yoko Shimomura is just beautiful. Like, such a glorious musical voice. Honest to goodness, she's like one of my actual, like, favorite composers alongside Nobuo Uematsu. Like, they're modern day geniuses, for sure. Oops, your internet died there for a moment. Hey, no worries. I was just saying, what you going to do about the bigwigs? And then I started talking about how Yoko Shimomura is an absolute angel. Who did this song, Dearly Beloved? It's so pretty. Oh, butts indeed. Thanks, Budspot. There we go. You should start making pizza for pizza weekend in the background. Hey, no worries. Enjoy. I love me some pizza. I do as well a pizza style mac and cheese. Yeah, right. I want pizza now. Mushrooms, pepperoni, garlic with some cheese. That is so tasty. I would be all over that. Your usual suspect of top butts. Butts on fire. I might make the hand to be like a much thicker line than everything else. Just recede everything back here. So that the hand is like really the big focus here. Maybe even thicken the hand part. And like, even though that's usually the same color there, I think I might just lighten it a bit because like on a dark background it was really not showing up that much. Maybe put just the tiniest bit of definition on that one. Just a little, as a treat. Hi, cat. How you going? I hope you had a lovely sleep last night, my dearest. Mwah. Why? You've just been screamed to life by a cat. Pub time, pub time, pub time. Okay, that is actually all my emote slots done, aside from the bits tier things. Yeah. So that's really good. I'll go ahead and refresh and show you guys. Although saying that, like, I still want to edit this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this one just a tiddly bit bigger. And I'm gonna have a look at one thing, which is maybe what does it look like if I do it so that the thumb actually comes around. Coffee obtained. Nice. So that looks a bit better, I feel. That's a bit more like a point. Email you some coffee. Sent. There we go, that's a bit more legible. And it's also been put in pending, but that's okay. So far, we've actually filled them all out now. We've got Hung, with Binskits, Cry, Pride, Buttspot, Sip. We're gonna have a hype one eventually when that goes through its processing. We got a Wheeze, and we got a U. So those were today's new ones, which are gonna be really fun. I cannot wait for Hype. Hype is gonna be so good. And then on the actual program here, I'll show you the close-ups. So there we go. Oh, there we go. So we got Dupew. That'll be a tier 3. Dupuis. Which I might, like, try and make it a little bit less cluttered later on, but, like, for now, I'm pretty happy with it. And then we got the Dupe Hype. And Kat, because you've just joined, I've also now... I know I love Dupuis. I've also now got a new incentive on my channel points. So, in changing stuff around, I did break the sound, so I'm gonna have to fix that again. But I've now got an 8,000 point redeem called Add a Doodle to the Whiteboard. So I have a whiteboard now. And anybody who redeems that will be able to send me a prompt or a request for like a character, and I will draw it onto the whiteboard. And then when I get to the point of doing things like teaching, if I need a whiteboard, for instance, I'll jump over to here and use any free space so that people can see the doodles. And then if I do go through with the whole lighthouse idea and have like the classroom in the house, then this will be just ambiently on one of the whiteboards in the background. Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was a fun idea. And it keeps my whole teacher vibe thing, because, like, I miss having a big whiteboard. They're so much fun to have. Plus, because I'll be keeping stuff on here, if people do memes at the time, then, like, it will become a little bit of a time capsule, so it'll be like, oh, that was a funny stream when that thing happened, or, oh, this is a silly meme. Yeah, we've got 15 minutes left actually, so that's timed out really, really well. So I'm happy to just chill and chat for like another 15 minutes or so. Oh I'll talk to you guys about some of the plans I got. So I mentioned the lighthouse. One of the things I would absolutely love to do is get myself like a bit of a background going. And let me have a look if I've got it in here. There it is. So I really, really like the sort of aesthetic that a lot of people have with their streams. I think it's really, really creative. Just having things like I'm a character who lives in space, or I'm a character that lives on an airship, or I'm a character that is, you know, got like this really big consistent theme. So one of the things I wanted to do was just sort of set mine in like a really nice little lighthouse area. And I've got plans for like, you know, each of these layers of the lighthouse would have different sections that I could cut to for scenes. So for instance, if I just go over here and like zoom in on this. So like the main thing I've got here is just like, this could be a really nice little title card, like the stream is starting or the stream's just ended, and like maybe animate this gently. Have it so that like that's a room in the actual lighthouse part, that each of these segments is a room that we can cut to. So like maybe we've got like video watching in the downstairs room. We've got some artwork at the top, so we've got like a really nice view in the background. Teaching going on in the little house, so like make that like a little separate classroom that we can kind of enter. And then like maybe have just like a just chatting room and like a gaming room. And then like, I don't know, just maybe like a craft room or something. And then teaching. Because like my whole thing at the minute is like I have like some big goals that I'd like to hit in the next sort of year or so. And I'd like to get things like, as I said, the sort of like Fan Art Friday going consistently. I'd love to do my teaching streams where I just sort of do webinars live for people, and then eventually make like some YouTube videos or something, or like some accessible VODs and things like that. And like my main things are like teach, so like learning. I've got like the sort of green dog kind of hoodie aesthetic with my character, but everything at the minute is craft based. So like one of the ideas I had was like, instead of doing this in Blender, what if I just like physically made something, or if I did it in Blender, like made it look as though it was a physical prop, and then had that as my backgrounds, you know, like then it kind of keeps with this whole like craft-based aesthetic that I'm trying to build up for my whole like channel at the minute. Yeah, like it's just sort of like lots and lots of ideas, and like the lighthouse is just, yeah, right, like it could be like a little cardboard papercraft lighthouse, like the kind of mini doll sets and things that I see people making. So that's like one big future plan. Like obviously I'm getting everything set up and things still, so this has probably got like a realistically 2 to 5 year like to completion kind of timeline on it. Because I'd love to do other things like make a PNG tuber / VTuber, like depending on what that is, like and how the process goes, how my character looks in it, and all of this. I'd love to set up some more like stream interactivity and things like that alongside all of the other streams and things I want to do. But this is gonna be, yeah, like this is gonna be the background constant project, and I chose a lighthouse because like I live near the sea. I have always lived near the sea, and it's really significant and important to me. And maybe we can be the shining beacon in the art sea to help guide people through some of art's most difficult questions. I thought that was really cute. Like, we'll shine a light on some on some learning. A little green dog in a big paper lighthouse. Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be sort of like. I will be posting lots of progress updates on that as well. To bring scattered storm-tossed artists safely ashore. Yeah, like it's the symbology just works, and also I would love to just sort of like live in a really serene place like this. Like it's the whole if I could choose to live anywhere, where would I kind of scenario. And there's a fun idea of like people who are like in other streams who have like the big spaceships and stuff. If they come to visit, then they can just sort of park it. You know, they're not going to be hitting the rocks or anything because my lighthouse will guide the way. Let's get married and live in a lighthouse. Let's do it, Cat. Let's do it. Let's go. Yeah, like things are brewing. So yeah, that was a little sneaky peek of some ideas that I got coming up. Basically, I've given myself plenty of projects to keep myself busy. But in the meantime, I think if you live in a lighthouse, you'll know I'll be visiting. It's my dream home. That's what I'm saying. It's like, these are just like absolutely the goals of like, oh, that would be a gorgeous place to live. But yeah, I think instead of doing this ad in 4 minutes or so, I think if we go ahead and do a raid now, because I'm going to jump off now that it's 5 to 3, and I'm thinking Sodor Art today, because they're streaming right now, and they had some really, really beautiful pixel art things. So if you want to join in on the raid message, if you have the emotes, it'll be you've been duped. And feel free to use the Binskits emotes there. If not, then just feel free to use any old emote that you like. There we are. And thanks as always for joining, even the Sunday mini streams. Hopefully the schedule should be a bit more on track next week. I'll have a very quick check to see if anything's interrupting it next week, just so that we're aware. As always, I will be keeping updates posted on my Twitter, so if you want to have a look and see if I am or am not cancelling a stream, then just check there. Let's see. Next week is... okay, my Friday stream will have a sort of half an hour buffer till starting, but I have nothing else on, so I will let people know about the Friday stream. That'll just be starting at like 12:30 rather than 12, because I've got a call right around that time that I need to take. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, 12 till 6 in British Standard Time. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your time zone and enjoy Sodor Art. See you later.
Yo, hello. One moment, let me shout you out. Welcome on in, Raiders. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sauter. My pronouns are she, her, and I do pixel art and game dev. Today we're just vibing. We were talking about our goals for the month of May. I was showing off my D&D OC. Because May 1st we're doing an OC jam, so I was telling peeps about how that started. Um, yeah, we're just vibing. We're just vibing. I did this Bilbo art last stream, and then I did this last night. I made like a your character here starter emote pack. This has like a rave flashing, but I didn't want it flashing on stream for that long. So I made this bad boy. Yo, Dupus, how was your stream? What did you work on? If you've got anything to share, you're more than welcome to drop a link in chat so I could go ahead and pull it up. Please, please, please. Yo, Smilky, welcome on in. Messy Zanderbird, that's a cute name. Welcome on in. Jacob, hello. Howdy, howdy, howdy. That is such a cool sheet reference. Yo, thank you. She's mega cute. Yo, thank you, thank you, thank you. Reika, welcome on in. How the hell are you? I think I should do this. Yeah, I feel like it's a good opportunity to like sit down, figure out how your OCs look, finalize their design, finalize their outfit, you know, figure it out and then get them on paper cuz she exists in my head. But I have no art of her. I can't I have trouble describing how she looks. So I need to sit down. I need to sit down and figure out how to pixelize a half dragonborn lady. And that'll be a challenge because I don't really do dragons or lizards or I mean, I don't really do furries in general, let alone scalies. So it'll be a challenge for me, for sure, for sure. Super chill. Worked on some emotes today. They're pending and my board is very messy right now, but those are coming soon. If you want to take a screenshot of that bad boy and drop a link in chat, I'd love to pull it up. But if that's a pain in the ass for you, then don't worry about it. You're also more than welcome to drop your social media. Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Thank you so much for the raid and for bringing your peeps over. Sauter's gonna draw her perfect partner, OC. Old, rich, and a furry. I just gotta wait 10 years for John. I just gotta wait 10 years. He needs a little more silvers. Good thing I'm doing all these portraits. Feel like it'll help me, it'll really help me as far as speed goes. Might manage to squeeze it in. He's already a furry. No, I gotta wait for him to get older. He's got a few silver hairs. He needs a little bit more for people to start calling him a silver fox. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. He's a work in progress. I'm just kidding. I don't mean to say that. That was a joke. That was a joke. That was a joke. Don't tell him I said that. Next time he streams, y'all are gonna be like, hey, Sauter called you a work in progress, by the way. And he's gonna be like, what? Not knowing the joke, not knowing the full lore. House is getting loud. The details about OC May is on Discord too. It will be. It will be tonight. I haven't typed it up yet. I've only spoken about it. Pretty much everything I said is just going to be typed up. But I haven't had a chance to type it. My goal for the month of May is to end the month in the positive financially. Yo, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Financial goals are valid. Financial goals are valid. Guys, not to be cringe, but can I say something? Can I say something very cringe? Very hashtag silly? What day was it? Let me check my calendar. On the 26th, today's the 30th. On the 26th, me and John made a final payment on like a huge debt, and it's paid off. And I gotta say, it like a large part of that is all of y'all's constant support, and I appreciate the hell out of y'all. We're very happy to have paid that bad boy off. So we're getting even closer and closer to getting married. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Elfie, welcome on in. How the hell are you? Elfie, we gotta figure out when I'm gonna come on your stream. We gotta figure that out. Yo, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, really Pogalicious. It's so great just fucking paying off stupid shit. And just getting it off your plate, you know? So I really appreciate y'all always supporting me. Because it really has helped. One of these days, it's just going to be an at everyone. one on the Discord, and it's just gonna be me and John holding hands. And you're gonna see a ring on on my hand, and then that's how you know. Working on a screenshot for you. I'll throw it to you in a sec. Yeah. Take your time. Take your time. No rush. Also, if you want to like get up, stretch, get food, and then come back and share that screenshot, that's fine too. There's no time limit. Don't worry about it. There's no time limit. Could you imagine if the streamer was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much for the raid. You've got 5 minutes to show what you did on stream today. And if you take longer, Nightbot's gonna snipe you for your link." Oops. Could you fucking imagine? I want to start the marriage fund. Yo, Darian, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Sam, thank you so much for the lovely music, as always. I appreciate the hell out of you. We are switching over to Miku. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's Miku time. I loved watching Morbius when Miku said, "Yo, it's Miku time." It was really great. It was really great. We do, it shall be sorted. Hey, yo, Elden Ring collab. I think my goal for May is to save money. I definitely spend way too much money on fast food and stuff. I feel you. That's a difficult one. Because, like, you're fucking hungry. You know? What are you gonna do? Starve? And it's like, oh, we'll just pack up food. Just do this, just do that. Yum, 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 yum. But, like, that takes a lot of extra time. If you come home after a 10-hour shift, I don't know, you know? Yeah, maybe you're not gonna have the energy to like cook yourself lunch for tomorrow. It makes sense. That's valid. You know, it's one of those things. What cheesecake? What we've been doing? Because like it feels like it's either buy fast food / restaurant food or do all home cooking, and that's a lot of time and energy. What's a nice middle ground? Go to the deli, cheesecake. Go to your grocery store deli and get food from there. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than like just ingredients, but then it's already like it's already cooked, right? You know, get your potato salad, your macaroni salad, your fried chicken, you know, your bread, blah, 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 blah. So it's a little bit more expensive than just buying ingredients and cooking it, but it's already made and it's not as expensive as fast food. It's a nice middle ground. Depending on your deli. I don't know what your deli is like. I mean, some delis, like, they'll make you sandwiches and stuff. That's really nice. Yeah, I feel like it's this weird, like, I don't know, you see it on TikTok a lot where it's like, oh my god, guys, it's Sunday, so we're gonna meal prep for 7 hours straight. Like, what? Huh? Are you not resting on Sunday? I don't know. That seems a little wacky to me. And also, maybe getting a crock pot. That might help you out. But I mean that's also a chunk of change. I know you can get crock pots from thrift stores sometimes. Sometimes. They get scooped up really quickly though, so I don't know. No time limit. Join back in 2 months down the line and drop the link and leave. Wait, I see congrats. What did I miss? I said to y'all that me and John paid off a big debt on the 26th. And a large part of it is because of y'all and y'all support, and I appreciate it. Guess that's one upside of the rural life. It takes so much freaking work to even get fast food. Yeah, you don't have a choice. I don't have that kind of executive function. You're valid. An image of holding hands. One hand was painted green in MS Paint, and there's a stock image thingy on top of it, and that's my prediction of the announcement. Me when I meal prep for the whole week. I admire anybody that does meal prep. I absolutely admire you, but boy howdy am I not doing that. It was such a pain to get anything at all when we lived rural. Yeah. Dandy, welcome on in. How the hell are you? I forgot what I said that was funny, so I don't know why you're laughing. The way you worded that made me think you said go to the deli and get cheesecake and get a cheesecake at first. That too. That too. If you go to fast food places to get like apple pies or whatever, because you have a sweet tooth, then yeah, it's probably better just to go to the bakery and get that giant, like, wheel of cheesecakes. Do y'all do the forever crockpot soup? My housemate did that and would just throw whatever leftovers in there, and it ran for like a month. I just could not trust that. Oh, perpetual stew? Let me pull up the wiki on that, because some of y'all don't know what perpetual stew is, and it's so fucking funny. Perpetual stew. 30 minutes worth of gas, no, literally. Or you Uber it or DoorDash or whatever, and all those fees. Like, no fucking way. The Forever Broth, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling it up. Display capture. Perpetual stew, also known as forever soup, hunter's pot, hunter stew, is a pot in which whatever foodstuffs one can find is placed and cooked. The pot is never or rarely emptied all the way, and whatever ingredients and liquids are replenished as necessary. Such foods can continue cooking for decades or longer if properly maintained. The concept is often a common element in descriptions of medieval inns. Foods prepared in a perpetual stew have been described as being flavorful due to the manner in which the ingredients blend together. My POV, hey, they had to do what they had to do in the medieval times, right? They had to do what they had to do. With that said, their pots were cast iron. Like, that's a little bit different than a fucking crack pot that's plugged in. Because sometimes when you're sleeping, you're dead asleep at 2 a.m. There's like a very, very, very short outage, only for 5 minutes. And the light turns back on, everything is fine. And